Hi, my name is Roger Radijak with S&G. I'm in the purchasing department, and I wanted to discuss today the new laminate that we just brought in. It's on the rack here. Hopefully you have the same rack in your store. I believe you do. There's 14 new SKUs, and I just want to go over the different qualities and styles that are available. So starting with the Dreamland series. Dreamland is a 5-inch wide laminate like we have throughout the store. It's 12 millimeter. It is on an HDF core, which is high density fiber. So HDF is high density fiber, which most laminates are on. If you remember, some of the old laminates didn't have the high density cores. Now everything is. The reason why it's high density, of course, for impact resistance, so that it doesn't dent. So it's extremely durable. Also in the core, they mix resin, which makes the product not absorb water. So there's actually a rating on the product for absorption, water absorption. That's actually in the core of the product, which has a high percentage of cost of the actual laminate process to make the product. Secondly, I wanted to talk about the type of finish on all laminates, which is melamine. And melamine is the same material that's used on light switches. Have you ever seen a light switch worn out? I never have. If you go into old restaurants, they may have been there for 40 or 50 years. They've been hit thousands of times. As you can tell, they never wear out. On top of that, we actually add aluminum oxide into our finishes on our floors, which light switches don't have. And what aluminum oxide is the fourth hardest substance known to man, and it's granulated and it's mixed throughout the product into the finish. And the finish is what we call the cap sheet. The actual melamine itself goes on top of the paper, which is the picture that you see. By the way, if you notice laminates, the warranty on the paper, that it doesn't fade, it's a special type of paper. It's not like a Christmas wrap paper. I wanted to say that because it's Christmas time, so just so you know. And you even can tell on Christmas wrap the good foil paper versus the printed over and over where it looks faded. Laminate papers are extremely clean and clear and crisp. And when they press the laminates, they need to make sure the paper is extremely flat and the cap sheet goes over and makes the product happen. And when I say makes it happen, because it starts out as a full sheet and then it's cut into pieces, and then the mechanism, the locking mechanism, whatever it's going to be, possibly a drop and lock or the uniclick, is then beveled on the sides to make the product go together. So varieties of laminate are thickness, its actual how the product's been finished on the edges. This particular product, Dreamland, is what we call a pressed edge. And the reason why pressed edge is a little different, we're all familiar with the regular square edges that just go together that you find in usually your lower cost laminates. Lower cost laminates are cheaper to manufacture because they save either the pressed edge step in manufacturing or like a V-groove or a bevel that's added to the product later to give it more definition. The reason why a pressed edge has become popular is it doesn't have a groove that some ladies and some gentlemen in their homes, if there's a pebble or a rock, bevels are good in that they can, if there's a pebble on the floor, or if you step on it, could possibly leave a mark into the finish. It'll fall into the groove and keep damage off of the floor. That's usually what bevels are for. They also help define each board. With a pressed edge, it makes the product smoother. So if there's moisture that you're rinsing the floor or mopping the floor, some people prefer a pressed edge because it doesn't have that heavy groove look and it's a little smoother. The other thing the pressed edge can do is when we actually cut laminate, some of you veterans might remember, sometimes you see a little bit of a white line or a white edge. When something's pressed, it helps alleviate some of that because you don't have that real clean cut crisp line like you do on some of the square edge laminates. And as you know, as they're cutting the laminate, if the cutting blade dulls, that's where you get the white line. So nice looking floor, 5 inches wide. This is the Dreamland series with a pressed edge. The next one is called Illusions. Illusions is also a pressed edge, but a wider product. Instead of the 5-inch, looks to be about a 6.5 inch wide. I know we were getting some calls for this, for some wider boards that were pretty effective as far as cost. This month, these are all under $3. Hopefully it's a nice visual and easy for you to sell. Next product, Prestige Illusions. Very similar to Dreamland, although they did add the bevel here. So that gives you more character to the consumer. There's more of a depth, so on the floor, obviously you can see each individual piece easier. And when I say piece, each plank, okay? So a little more defined. On all of these products, this is kind of important. Cheaper laminates just have what we call like a brushed or just kind of like a pebble finish, where it's almost kind of like a real fine sandpaper, and that's that cap sheet I was talking about. And when they press cap sheets, there's different textures. On these particular products, the cap sheet has texture built into it, and you'll be able to see it. You'll be able to see like a little bit of a chatter mark that's been pressed into the product to give it also more of a 3D look and more character. Now conversely, people always ask, hey, why does laminate cost more? Okay, well, it's all about adding stages into the product. If you look at a cheaper product, like our Kingston, it doesn't really have any whistles and bells. It's just a square edge. This particular cap sheet is just randomly put over the top of the oak. So there's no extra added value. Whereas we have a textured cap sheet on the new products and a bevel or a pressed edge that adds in manufacturing cost, takes more time to produce, and the price gets driven up. Let me just tell you about Mannington real quick and some of the other higher end laminates. Like on Revolution's butterscotch that I have here, these are what we call EIR, which is an abbreviation for embossed in register. And what embossed in register is, literally they take the paper, and when they put the cap sheet on it, they etch a plate, their cap sheet plate, and they etch it to match the floor exactly. So what happens is, when the cap sheet comes down and meets the paper, it mirrors the paper within probably a couple hundredths of an inch. So if you have a little knot hole in the paper, if you actually look at the surface texture, you'll see that same little knot hole in the cap sheet, in the texturing of the product, and they match exactly, which gives you the maximum 3D effect in product. That's why some of the Mannington floors and some of the Formica floors, if they're embossed in register, if you look very closely, they'll be more expensive, but they also do look more realistic on the floor. So hopefully that gives you kind of an idea of why the cost of laminate varies so much. The last series that I want to talk about real quick is just kind of a unique series here on the new product called Quality Laminate. And the reason why we brought this in is just because it is the strand bamboo look. It's a pressed edge product, and there's not a lot of this on the market. It's affordable. We do get people asking for it, and I felt it was a void in the market for us. We didn't really have anything that we could go to. So hopefully you understand a little bit more about laminate. I think all of you can reach me, or certainly with Jim if you have a question. It's something that you can relay to me or call me directly in the Rancho Cordova store. I'm usually here daily now. Be happy to answer any questions on any laminates or specifics. So thanks for your time. Good selling. Merry Christmas.